Welcome to DIYeasycrafts and Knifemaking.com. Today we're going to take a look at how to make removable knife scales or knife handles. Now this particular project is a 14-inch AEB-L stainless steel knife with burlap micarta handles. The customer wanted removable handles, so I figured I'd put together a short video. The actual burlap micarta I did in a home press. I did a separate video on creating that micarta. I was actually pretty impressed with the way it came out. Have never been a really big burlap micarta fan. But after making it and looking at it deeply, I actually like the way it looks. Anyway, first step is to cut it into a usable size, and then you have to make sure that these scales are perfectly flat. Especially, most scales have to be really flat to get a good seam between the scale and the tang of the knife. It is even more important on removable scales because any imperfection will really stand out. We're going to use these small black 832 cap screws, and this is the part number. You could actually freeze this frame and capture that information. I got them off of McMaster and Carr, but you could find them from Granger or from a variety of other sources. So these are 832 and they're 3/8 long. They come in a variety of different lengths. I'm also going to use these threaded standoffs. The ones I bought are aluminum. Of course, they have an 832 thread. You could also go with the 632 cap screw and standoff for a smaller head diameter. It really just depends on the look that you want to achieve. This is the part number for the 832 standoffs, threaded standoffs. They're 11/32 long. In addition, I'm going to use one of these center drills. This is a 1/4 inch. I found these at Ace Hardware, and this one is 5/16. The 5/16 is kind of important because we're going to use that. That's going to drill the hole that allows the head, the diameter of the head of the 832 cap screw to fit inside of it. So this is just a mock-up on a small scrap piece of the burlap micarta. It's just going to show you how it's going to end up working. So the threaded insert is going to go through the tang of the knife and then grab onto the knife scale on each side. And then the cap screw is going to go in and sit on a small ledge or a counter groove cut with that drill. And when tightened up, that'll clamp both scales tightly together onto the tang of the knife. So I'm going to start by drilling through the pre-drilled holes in the knife blade. What I've done is I've clamped the micarta and the knife into position onto a piece of wood. I use a piece of wood just to prevent any blowout of the scales. And I clamp everything into position. I just don't want that knife to grab on the drill bit and helicopter or spin. Once I have one hole drilled, I'm then going to put one of the threaded inserts, one of the spacers, into the micarta and then also into or through the handle of the knife or the tang of the knife. That's going to hold position for the next hole. So now I'm going to drill the next hole and I'm just going to repeat that process. I'll clamp this all into position. What I do is I use the drill bit to position the blade, and then I clamp it, and then I'll turn on the drill and drill the hole. And then after I drill each hole, I'll insert that threaded spacer to hold that position. And the end result is going to be 3 holes that are perfectly drilled through not only the existing holes of the knife, but also through the burlap micarta. I'm not saying that this is the only way to do it. I'm just showing you the way that I do it. So now I've got 2 of the threaded spacers holding that burlap micarta into place. I'll drill the last hole. I won't have to show you that. I'll skip a little bit of the process. And I'll add that third standoff after I've drilled the hole. After the holes are drilled in the first side of the micarta, and this is an oversized piece of micarta, I'm going to trim off the excess material. Now I did it on a pin saw. You could certainly use, a bandsaw. So that's side number one. Now I'm going to basically just repeat the process. I'm going to go to side number two. I'm going to clamp everything in position with an oversized piece of micarta, again on a piece of pine or wood, just to prevent any blowout from drilling the holes. I'm going to drill one hole. You'll see in a second, I'm just going to add that threaded spacer. It's a very snug fit because it's a 1/4 inch outside diameter on those threaded spacers and a 1/4 inch hole that I'm drilling. You don't have to smash it all the way in. You just want it to grab so that it holds positioning for the micarta, relevant or relative to the other holes. So once again, I'm going to position the drill through one of the drilled holes through the blank handle, clamp it all into position, and it seems very tedious and very redundant, but this whole process really doesn't take a lot of time. And once it's clamped securely, I'll turn on the drill press and drill another hole. And after that, I add another threaded spacer, which holds all the alignment correct for the holes, and then I'll cut off the excess material from that side. So now I've basically got two pieces of burlap micarta that are rough cut to the basic, outline or profile of the handles. They are drilled, basically perfectly through the holes that were in the scale material, the knife blank. And I'm just going to shape now the front edge of the handles. I'm not going to show you on this video the entire process of shaping scales, and sanding them and polishing them, etc. It's basically a duplicate of what I've done 100 times on other videos. This video is really about attaching, drilling the holes, the needed holes, and attaching these removable scales. The next step in the process is to take the larger drill bit, and I've set the depth on this so that it's not going to drill all the way through the micarta. You only want to go, halfway through or 3/4 of the way through, so that the head of that cap screw will be countersunk. And I've set the stop on my drill press. I'm only hand holding this micarta, but in hindsight, I probably should have put a clamp on this as well. It would probably be safer to do that way. And this is going to create that counterbore where the head of the cap screw is going to sit or rest on. You can see that little ledge right inside each hole. All right, so now I'm going to insert the threaded standoffs or spacers, through the 1/4 inch holes in the tang of the knife blade. I put a cap screw into each one and then tapped it in with a hammer. I didn't want to flare out that aluminum or damage the threads at all. So I took one of the cap screws and just made it disposable. I didn't mind damaging that one at all. And you want to have these threaded standoffs so that they stick out a little bit on each side. Doesn't have to be exact, but you do want them to grab onto or grab into the 1/4-inch pinholes or screw holes that are through each micarta scale. And at this point, even without the cap screws, both sides or both scales will actually hold, onto the blade. It's a real snug fit. So now, after I've finished shaping the scales and polishing these in particular, they're ready for the final mounting. And the final mounting is very easy. It's exactly the same way. So I'm just going to position each side of the scales right onto those threaded spacers, the little bit that sticks out. That holds everything into position, perfectly. And then you insert the 6, on this particular knife, the 6 black 832 cap screws, and tighten those up, snug those up. It really is a very neat way of attaching knife handles, and you certainly save yourself a little bit of time, drying time, especially with the epoxy on standard pins. And it's also a little bit of a different look. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, I ask that you please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'd also like to invite you to our Facebook group, Knives and Knife Making, where you can post pictures of your own builds. You can check out our book, Introduction to Knife Making, which is available on Amazon.com. Thank you very much.